Lindsay and her older brother Donald are walking up the hill. And that is where Donald is going to die today. The plan is she's going to light him on fire. When she's done tying him up, she starts getting all these little twigs and branches, piling them up at his feet. She starts running down the hill by herself without him. She leaves him tied up on the tree with no way to get down. And Donald knew from the get-go what Lindsay was planning. But he didn't mind. Lindsay's full name is Mary Christine Galvin, which would make her the Sacred Mother Mary, Virgin Mary, the Mother of Christ. This is the story of, according to one psychiatrist, the most mentally disturbed family in America. 12 full-blooded siblings living in one house. 6 of the siblings, half of the siblings, will go on to get diagnosed with schizophrenia. This is the story of the Galvins. The therapist is staring at Lindsay Galvin. She's in college now. This is the 7-year-old that tried to kill her brother. She's in college. And the therapist asks, "So tell me about your family." Lindsay, for once, she starts talking and she just doesn't stop. Every day living in that house with her siblings, her 11 siblings, it felt like a fever dream. I mean, just the strangest things would happen. There she sees her brother chanting in the middle of the living room. "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread." What's going on? Other times he would just be pouring a container of salt into an aquarium, poisoning and killing all of the fish. And then another brother is the living room floor because he thinks that the devil is living underneath him and this is the only way to get the devil out. Lindsay starts telling the therapist of everything that she went through as a kid, and when she finally takes a moment to breathe, she looks up at the therapist, whose expression has changed. The therapist thinks, maybe Lindsay has schizophrenia. Maybe she's the crazy one. Maybe this is all in her head. That makes sense, doesn't it? But now, Donald is sitting in front of the therapist, and he's done things that nobody can ignore. Tell me about the visits to the health center. Donald had gone to the University Health Center a few times recently to be treated for suspicious injuries. The first one being from, a cat bit me. Which they thought, okay, that's interesting. Cats typically don't bite first. They usually scratch, but maybe this cat is different? What happened? Why did the cat bite you? Donald wouldn't respond. A little while later, he shows up again in the waiting room. What's going on? How can we help you? Donald explains how his roommate caught an STD and now he's feeling very uncomfortable and potentially even paranoid, worried that he's going to get the STD too. The doctor looks up from his paper. Donald is trying to get into medicine. Surely he knows that's not how STDs work. I mean, you don't just get it from breathing the same air. You have to have sexual relations, which he's not having with his roommate. It just seemed a little paranoid. But the most alarming visit, the reason that he was seeing a psychiatrist now, is the visit about his burns. Why would he walk through a bonfire? Was he trying to impress someone? Was he drunk? Was he on drugs? Donald wouldn't say. Donald is pulled out of classes, sent to a psychiatric evaluation where a psychologist for the Air Force Academy Hospital sees Donald 4 times in the span of 2 months. This is the first mental health professional examination on any of the Galvin family members. And it is very clear something's not right. Donald gets evicted. He ends up living in one of these abandoned fruit cellars. He starts opening up about everything that has been going on in his life. He ran through the bonfire. He put a cord around his neck, probably in an attempt to strangle himself, though it's not explicitly clear. He turned on the gas, again, likely to poison himself, and even went to a funeral home to price shop for caskets for himself. I murdered a professor. Donald's therapist nods. I mean, at this point in the session, they likely knew that is not true, but they have to make sure. And if it's not true, they have to get to the bottom of why would Donald lie about something like that? The therapist writes, this boy represents some risk to himself and possibly others. Possible schizophrenic reaction. It was time to pull Donald out of class and get his parents to come take him home. Mimi and Don, they rushed to campus to pick Donald up. I mean, they heard the gist of what's going on from the psychiatrist. I'm sure they're surprised. They don't really see any of this in Donald. They walk into the room hoping that Donald is just going to laugh and say, okay, yeah, it's a sick prank I'm playing. It's all a misunderstanding. I got dared. But instead, they find their firstborn son washing his hair with as if that was the most normal thing to do. Donald, it's time to go home. Only they don't even know what to do with Donald when they get home. The options for Mimi and Don at this point, not looking great. But they thought, maybe he'll get better? Eventually, Donald will go back to school. This is just the start of Donald and his siblings starting to lose their minds. Have you ever done the ink blot test? It's where you look at 10 symmetrical ink blot images and you describe what you see in each one. It's like a watercolor blob of images of color. I mean, some people believe that it does nothing. It's way too subjective. Others state that it provides very unique insight into someone's psyche.
You're talking about like those painting-looking watermark images?
They don't really look like images. They look like blotches of color, watercolor.
Oh, what are you supposed to do?
So the therapist will hold it up and you tell them what you see in it. What do you see? Donald stares at the picture. Temptation. A woman is ready to have the man, but the man is suffering mentally. He is in anguish on whether or not he should or he shouldn't. What does he end up doing? He does not have to keep his values high. And this one? Maybe a father and son. A son is in bed and the father has come to say goodnight. He's about to walk out, but then he sees the son crying on the father's shoulder, asking him for help. He did something wrong and the father is going to offer him guidance. And this one? Someone killed the father. The son is avenging his death. He feels right in what he did because the other person committed injustice to the family. And this one? I see a hole, a cliff. There's a hole inside, and then you have to go deep inside the hole, and you will find newborn birds that you need to take home and make them your own. Interesting. A cave with a hole? It's almost like a birth canal, a passageway where you start a new bird family. And what do you see in this one? I'm climbing up a cliff, and birds are diving at me. Interesting. The therapist is intrigued at how much connection Donald is drawing from his real life and what he sees in the pictures.
So you're saying at this point, like his condition just getting so much worse?
This would be the part where he can no longer go to university or integrate into society at all.
He's trying to kill the wife.
He will be institutionalized in and out, and he will try to convince doctors that he does not have hallucinations. But they write in their notes that he keeps looking to the side as if he's listening to someone talking to him, or perhaps even guiding him during the therapy sessions. And this is the start of schizophrenia in the family. There will be 5 more that are diagnosed back to back. Dr. Delisi and Dr. Friedman are the first researchers to study the Galvin family in depth as a whole. They had to pull each sibling's blood samples, study their genetics to see if there's something consistent in them. Because if it's true that there's a genetic component to the disorder, then all the siblings will have some sort of marker that indicates that it's present even if they don't have schizophrenia. She flew all the way to Colorado to meet with the family, and when she walked in that front door, all she could remember thinking was, this might be the most mentally ill family in all of America. But first, they have to understand the family dynamics. The family consists of mom, Mimi, who is obviously a lot more involved with the kids, Don, the dad, and then 12 kids, 10 sons, 2 girls. The house runs on 2 sets of laws, America's laws and God's laws. You've got a military dad in combination with a Catholic mom. There's going to be a lot of rules. Now, at first, Mimi received a lot of blame for how the children turned out. A lot of people thought it was her fault because she's the mom. The whole family, when it was just Donald diagnosed, they were really struggling to understand what's going on. The only person that seemed to enjoy Donald's downfall is Jim. Jim is the second oldest brother, and he has always hated Donald. Hated. Jim has this thing where he always wants to be the oldest, always wants to be the one in charge, the one that the parents love the most. Their sibling rivalry was so bad, sometimes they would get into full physical altercations like a tornado in the living room. If Donald is the all-American guy, Jim is the bad boy, leather jacket, driving a black Chevy, the brother that's going to sneak you a little to your Coke, even though you don't want it and you're underage. That's Jim. He tries to do everything Donald does, but better. Football, Jim is good, Donald is better. Falconry, Jim is good, Donald is better. And that drives Jim mad. Every single thing, Donald comes out on top. I mean, you would think that the other siblings would like Jim more because Donald had his little fight club days, right? But weirdly enough, they don't like Jim much either. Jim had his own issues. He did this thing where he would encourage all his little brothers, yeah, bring your girlfriends around. Like, I'm so cool. I'll buy you guys drinks and stuff. But the second the girlfriends would walk in through the door, he would start hitting on them. He just liked being as provocative as possible until the worst happened. Jim started touching his little sisters. It would later be said that because Jim was so kind to the girls that when he started essaying them, it almost seemed normal. Lindsay, the youngest daughter, would say her first memory of essay was maybe when she was 3, 4. She said it was my brother Jim coming in the middle of the night, putting his hands on me and me crawling up into a ball tighter and tighter, trying to get away, not really understanding what's going on. I mean, I'm a little child and I'm trying to stop whatever he's doing only because I think I probably knew somehow that it was wrong and I didn't like it, but I was also so terrified to try and stop it. I didn't know what to say. You just pretend that it's not happening. You think maybe it's love. Maybe this is love, and him having his hands all over me is love. I think he was very good at making sure it was only one child in that room when it was happening, whether it was Margaret, my older sister, or me, or just, yeah. She said, the abuse was chronic. I'm going from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is continuing on a regular basis. I don't know how often. I'm thinking it was maybe most weekends. But it was either that, be there with Jim, or be at home with Donald, which was terrifying too, because Donald had his outburst. He was not without us having to call the police about him and having to go to the hospital, whether it was attempted self-exit or whether he was getting into a fight with my father. It was like choosing the lesser of two evils. It was like you could be at home with Donald, or you could be at Jim and Kathy's and endure his essay and also keep it a secret. Because one, no one's going to believe me. If I were to go to my mother, she was emotionally probably very unavailable at this time. So I'm not sure I felt safe going to her. For Margaret, Lindsay's older sister, it started when she was also 5. She was way too young to understand what was happening, same as Lindsay. She was confused that maybe it was love. I mean, she hated it. She didn't like it, but she thought maybe she just doesn't like love and it's just strange to her. Why else would Jim be so kind? For Margaret, the older sister, moving on from this type of trauma, the best thing she could do was to remove herself from the family. She had to pick the lesser of two evils. The chance presented itself when this very wealthy family friend of Mimi's had asked if they could help in any way. They said, we could take Margaret. That would make your life easier, right? One less kid in the house. Margaret would be sent to live with the very well-off Gary family in Colorado.
Wait, why would they want to take over a kid?
They're very charitable. They like to take in kids. So they had a few other kids from families that were going through rough patches.
But they were friends.
They're very close friends with Mimi and Donald. Lindsay, the youngest, she was actually one of the tougher ones in the house. She has to watch all of her siblings one by one either go insane, go to college, start their own lives, or be hospitalized. Or in Margaret's case, just leave to live with a wealthy family. They all leave her in some way, shape, or form. Brother number 3, John, he's kind of the opposite of his 2 oldest brothers. He is fully devoted to classical music. He's very quiet. He just keeps in his own world, which at the time, Don, the dad, did not like. He would tell him, John, you need to get out more. Music is a selfish profession. You spend so much time in the practice room. Why don't you socialize more? What good are you doing? It hurt John, but this was kind of his escape. He would eventually start working as a music teacher. And interestingly, later at John's wedding, Don, the dad, would pull John's new mother-in-law aside and tell her, your daughter got the best of my litter. Like the best of the 12.
Why so? Why did he say that?
John
Does he really like John?
Yeah, but he never showed it. John had no idea what to do with that, but he just knew that he wanted some distance between himself and the family. Don, the dad, was always busy outside the house. He was allegedly had like 6 different affairs, threw himself into his work, and it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
But how is John doing mentally?
He does not have schizophrenia.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why the dad said it, you think?
Maybe. But I think John is just a very calm person. So the other brothers who also don't have schizophrenia, they still have more of like rebellious streaks that they went through. John was just a very calm, collected person. And Brian has this thing where he talks a lot about very dark subjects. Like he would talk openly about death. But people thought he's so musical, he's in this band. It's almost romanticized when he does it. Lorelai thought it was nice until it wasn't nice. She ends up breaking up with him. And they would both be found dead in her apartment. Brian would shoot his ex-girlfriend, Lorelai Smith, in the head with a rifle and then turn the rifle on himself. He would be dead. So Michael, the next eldest, he briefly had a visit to a psychiatric hospital soon after. And everyone in the family was convinced that he's next. He's losing his grip on reality. He's going to end up just like Donald, just like Jim, just like Brian. But Michael was certain the minute that he stepped into that hospital, wait, I don't think I belong here. This was like his tipping point. He said he started getting into meditation, mindfulness, and he was not diagnosed with schizophrenia. Richard is another brother that does not get diagnosed with schizophrenia, and it was very hard for these brothers. A lot of people say schizophrenia is like Alzheimer's, in the sense that it breaks the whole family apart. It doesn't just impact the person with it, it impacts the whole family unit. Richard said he was terrified watching his brothers. It felt like he was going to go crazy any second. Out of the oldest 6 siblings, we have Donald, Jim, and Brian, who have schizophrenia. John, Richard, and Michael do not. There are 4 more sons and 2 girls left. The last 4 brothers, they were actually known as the Hockey Brothers. They're the youngest 4, and they almost had like a subunit inside the family. They were inseparable. They played every single sport together. They actually got along for the most part. Their main sport of choice was hockey. The oldest is Joe. Very mild-mannered, introspective. He likes to just stay on the outskirts of the family analyzing. Then we have Mark, the chess protege, and quite sensitive. Not in a bad way, but sensitive. Matthew, he had a little bit of a mischievous spark in him, but when he's not goofing around, he was obsessed with pottery. Peter, the youngest, he was probably the most rebellious of the sibling bunch, even before everyone is diagnosed with schizophrenia. Matthew was Lindsay's main protector in the house.
Wait, hold on. Matthew
is the 3rd oldest of the 4.
Okay, so out of the 4, Matthew is number 3.
Yes, and he is like Lindsay's main protector for whatever reason. He's the one that's obsessed with pottery.
Okay.
He does have like a mischievous little spark in him, but I don't know, something about him, he just wanted to protect Lindsay when it was just the younger ones in the house. He was always making sure that she's okay, checking up on her. He just had this very calm, artistic air about him when he wasn't goofing around. And then one day, Joe backflipped him onto the patio as a joke. He landed on his head. He had to be rushed to the hospital. Blood was rushing out of his skull. He suffered from a concussion. Lindsay would say about the incident, one day somebody had gone to soccer practice, and I think Joe was supposed to take Matthew. There was some basic disagreement about Joe having to take him, or Joe was in a hurry or something very, very simple. And half joking, half in anger, he took Matt and threw him down to and he needed brain surgery. He had a hemorrhage in his brain. He was bleeding. He was in the hospital for a very long time. But he survived. It was a very big scare for the family. But he was discharged, and everybody thought it was going to be okay until one day, very soon after, Matthew goes over to visit Margaret. So Margaret is the one staying at the rich family's house.
Okay, so his younger sister. Yeah.
Yes, Matthew, his brain injury has healed. He goes to visit his little sister at the rich family's house, and he's the one obsessed with pottery. So he brings this new beautiful vase that he made. And Margaret was upstairs in the beautiful home.
How old are they at this point?
He's like late teens, I think, early 20s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Margaret is upstairs. She's on her way down to come see Matthew, and she hears this huge commotion. She's like, what is going on? She runs downstairs. Matthew is completely in the family friend's living room, and he had smashed his face to bits. It was shattered everywhere. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Then it was Joe, the one that slammed Matthew down, the oldest of the hockey boys.
Yeah.
Joe was working for United Airlines, so he was doing okay. He was a baggage handler. Things were going really well. He fell in love with a doctor's daughter. It seemed like they were going to get married, but everything starts falling apart with a knee injury. He gets this knee injury working for United, but he didn't want to file a claim for it. He just wanted to keep working to show United Airlines, hey, look, I'm such a valuable employee. But United Airlines did not see that, or maybe they just didn't care. Because when a promotion opens up, Joe thinks, I mean, that's got to be me, right? Nobody dedicates as much of their lives to the job as I do. He gets passed for the promotion, and Joe starts losing his mind. He starts sending threatening letters to the boss, to United, the whole company, to the CEO. Unsurprisingly, they fire him, and he starts sending those same threatening letters to the White House. He starts going off the rails. His fiance leaves him. He starts seeing things. He starts running down the middle of the street, screaming at the top of his lungs, the wolves are chasing me! The wolves are chasing me! He would go on these rants about how he used to live in China in a previous life. He would sit his sisters down and talk in depth about Chinese history. And he says that he knows all of this because there's a Chinese emperor in the clouds that is talking to him. Yeah. But Joe is actually the one sibling without anosognosia. So he knows he has schizophrenia. And it's just like the Galvin family could not catch a break because after Joe, soon after, the dad suffers from a stroke. Just right there in the middle of the living room floor, he collapses. Peter, the youngest of the hockey brothers, is standing right next to him. He witnesses the whole things. He had witnessed his brothers lose their minds. He had witnessed one of the most important people in his life, his father, have a stroke and almost die. I mean, after the stroke, the dad was never the same. The stroke hospitalized the dad for 6 months. He'd be paralyzed on the right side of his body. He seemed to be without any short-term memory. He didn't really remember much else after World War II. It was really bad. He went from reading 3 books a day to just sitting there watching TV. And it's soon after that, Peter, the son that was right next to him when he had his stroke, starts losing his mind. It's just devastating. Mark is the only hockey brother, if you will, that does not get diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was a chess protege growing up, and he was just the one constantly trying to break up fights. He was the closest with the 3 brothers, the hockey brothers, and a part of him feels like he has to grieve them. He feels like his brothers are alive, but it feels like they fell off the face of the earth. 2 of the other brothers, so at least 2 were abused by Father Freudy, and 2 other brothers stated that they were abused by one of the brothers. They did not name the brother, but we can kind of assume that it was likely Jim. So there's just no definitive reason on why Six did not get schizophrenia. And Margaret once wrote in her diary, "My brothers were going crazy, and I was swimming at the country club. My brothers are still going crazy, and I'm still swimming at the country club."
Oh, she's the one that's living with the wealthy
Gary's,
family?
Yeah. She just feels a lot of guilt. Because there's no reason, there's no answer, and she finds it very hard to be around her brothers. She wants to help, but she said, it's like pouring a glass of water with no bottom in it. You can't ever fill it up. It's just so futile to try and help them. It's not like they don't want to get better, but they just never get better. As far as Lindsay, she has chosen to be the new caretaker for most of her brothers. They're all much older now, 40s and 50s. She's even started taking care of Mimi in her last days before the mom.
Lindsay, the youngest, is the caretaker of all the brothers?
Yes. So Margaret, the other sister, does not really partake in family matters. She said that she needs that to heal.
Yeah.
And the author writes that they just process the grief very differently.
Yeah.
All the ones without schizophrenia are alive. 4 of the ones with schizophrenia have passed. So there's only 2 brothers left with schizophrenia. They're just trying to live, and they like being around birds, and they still try to get the family together every now and then. They have the Galvin Family Trust, which we are supporting thanks to the partners of today's episodes, but it's just to help them have their best golden years. Yeah.
Wow.
And that is the story of the Galvin siblings.